Welcome to the Apex Strengthcast with your hosts, Tyler Seabrook and Anthony Krasner. This Strengthcast is brought to you by Apex Strength, strength training for everyone. This week we have Aaron Scafi on to talk about drug-tested athletes taking drugs, PEDs, even when they're associated with WADA or compete in WADA-tested sports. Just briefly, before we get started, Tyler and I would like to sincerely apologize about last week. There was no Strengthcast released. It's not because we don't love you guys or love doing this. What happened was, we're learning on the go. And we stopped recording the Strengthcast and closed the laptop. And that corrupted the file. So we literally had nothing to upload. So again, sincerely sorry. We've been making big steps at improving the Strengthcast quality, both audio and video. And we think we've achieved that. And this was just a small error. We don't know who did it. It's Tyler. And but it won't happen again. So now, let's get into it. This time, Aaron's going to talk close to the mic, unlike last time.
My bad.
And I'm going to hand it over. Aaron, briefly introduce yourself for all the new listeners, and we'll go from there.
My name's Aaron. I work as a powerlifting coach, strength and conditioning coach. I work in a bit of nutrition, and I look at supplementation, mostly compounds for enhanced lifters. I think that's really about it. There's not much more going on with me, to be honest. I'm quite a boring person.
So we've had Aaron on once before in a second podcast, so if you want to give that one a listen after this as well.
You did your research.
Well, you can't speak to me about my thing and not expect me to rant, so it's like I have to write things down so I can stay on track.
Yeah.
Otherwise I'll just keep going and going and going, which when we talk, so it's like...
That's good though, we enjoy talking to you. So Aaron's done a lot of research for this Strengthcast. So something people see a lot now in sports, say weightlifting, is a lot of positive tests after years. They retest the B sample. So when you get drug tested, they take 2 samples. They take your blood and then they take 2 urine samples.
Yep.
And then, one of those is, one, if you fail, then they have another uncorrupted sample to recheck. So if that doesn't fail, they're like, okay, maybe it was contaminated or something. Or they store it and they retest it in years to see...
at a later date.
Yeah, when they find new ways to testing. So a big one now is like John Jones with T-Bol.
Yep.
They found it. So T-Bol was something like only 10 days they could test for it back in the day.
Yeah, T-Bol being Turinabol.
Yep.
So with Turinabol, it's actually one of the things that came up in the ASADA testing list that I had to look at. So I downloaded the ASADA banned list to see what was going on in terms of strength sports, and Turinabol was actually on there, which is interesting because Turinabol is pretty hard to get.
Real Turinabol, yeah.
Real Turinabol is really difficult to get.
Where do you get it from?
Yeah,
You
the
would,
biggest
wouldn't
guy in the gym. It was actually made famous back in the 60s and early 70s with the German Olympic team. They were part of their, their vitamin regime, we'll call it. They were told that they were taking vitamins. There was about 10,000 or so athletes.
They're like, I've taken these vitamins.
Yeah,
I've put on 10 kilos of lean mass.
They didn't know it was mandatory for them. And
Vitamin D is a powerful
they were
drug.
feeding them Turinabol. So
It sounds like Essendon in 2015.
there was no proven test. I'm an Essendon supporter. Don't start me. So if you actually do want to look into that topic, it was called the state plan topic way back in. There's a couple of studies, and I think there might be some short documentaries and stuff.
That's what happened though, right? So the German scientist told the American weightlifting coach, hey, this is what we're giving him to make him so much better. And then didn't the American one go away and then make D-Bol?
Basically...
we'll make him bigger and even stronger and more liver damage.
So T-Bol is actually it's a derivative of Dynabol. Okay, so D-Bol basically being it aromatizes, so it converts to estrogen. Whereas T-Bol, they worked out how to do it without it converting.
Hey man,
so it's like
you get jacked and a nice pair of titties.
Well, so it was all the strength without the sides. Again, you probably won't find it now. It's pretty bloody
T-Bol.
hard. Yeah, real T-Bol. It's really difficult.
Well, you'd have to be on that.
Trying?
Nah, I mean, fuck if I could get it. It's an oral. I mean, if you're gonna do it, it's more common.
Well, is that why
just to do D-Bol and stuff like that?
Is that why you find you get these like higher level athletes like John Jones doing it though, because they can source it. Do you have
Well,
the money?
they can. Well, I mean, I guess in theory they have money, so they can do what they like, right? So it's like they can do it, and they can probably get real stuff. You get real stuff, you don't really get the sides being estrogen. In saying that, you do want some level of estrogen. You can't have one without the other. It's like yin and yang. You can't have good without bad. So
Before this sidetrack, sorry.
I told you I ran, so please.
No.
Well, why is it so difficult to find now? Is it expensive to
Because
produce?
they stopped making it like in pharmacies and stuff in Germany back when I think the Berlin Wall came down. So was it 89 or whatever it was, 88?
Yeah, Jesus. So, we've got a bit of an outline here because there is a lot to cover on this one. And it is going to be a long one. If it is long, we're going to split it in two, which is perfect. Like, keeps people interested. So, number one, and this is a big one, it's something that Tyler and I will probably touch on as well. Why would a WADA-tested athlete choose to take drugs, in your opinion?
At the end of the day, I think the easiest way or the best way to sum it up was it Arnie, when he was talking about if dog shit would make him bigger, he'd eat it. So it's like, and at the end of the day, people just want to be the best. If someone comes to you and says, look, I can get you bigger without being caught, like, would you do it? I don't know. Like, I don't do natty lifting, so I don't know.
Well, you get a mix of both ends. You get some people going, I'll do anything to win. And you get the other ones going, I want to be fair play, I'll do anything to win, but within reason, like within a fair playing field.
Yeah, I think, there's always going to be people that just cross the line, right?
Well, that's
can't help that.
When it comes to powerlifting, it's like people... I think you got to be a real piece of shit to try to cheat test in powerlifting.
Yeah,
and if you're enhanced to compete in tested powerlifting. The reason being is one of the very few sports where there are federations that don't test.
Yeah, fair
right,
enough.
where it's openly accepted. It might not be openly talked about,
No, but I mean,
but it's like bodybuilding. You know what's going on.
It's very well known.
You know the
Yeah,
difference
for sure,
between the
for
two.
sure. Yeah.
Right, so I think
you can do it and get away with it.
yeah. So I think you got to be a real piece of shit to do that. Real piece of work. You real sicko.
So
right.
I'll say you really feel.
But again,
I'll second that as well.
yeah. But again, people do crazy things for a plastic trophy.
yeah, you're not wrong.
Right? And that's the thing. A lot of it comes down to just that glory. I think the other thing is that you find a lot of people justify it. It's like everyone's doing it, so I can do it. So in powerlifting, even like people think I'm on drugs, and I'm not. Never have been. Right? But people justify it. They convince themselves. They can convince themselves of a lot of things. I think it gets a bit more muddied on higher level sports, say like sprinting, say like UFC, like MMA.
Well, I think that's where those little 1%ers come into play, and it's sort of like, well, if you're doing everything possible and you need, that 0.1, 0.2% more, like, who's willing to do it? Because you know that someone else will be willing to do it.
And that's the thing. It's like, those sports don't have allowances for untested lifters or like athletes. I don't think it makes it right, but I think you can kind of almost be a bit more sympathetic to athletes in other sports doping. What would you think, Tom?
Oh, so I'll give you another reason as to why people would maybe be doing drugs when they know they shouldn't be, but they'll do it anyway. It's like the whole Lance Armstrong side of things, where it's like we're all tested athletes, but we all know that all the top guys are on gear. So then they know that in order for them to be the best, they've probably got to be on the same gear that those other 20 guys who train just as hard are on it, even though they're not meant to be on it as well. So if you look at a sport that's like corrupt, like cycling, for example, which I think is pretty clear, there's a lot of issues with drugs that's come out in the last decade. And so like people will be like, well, if they're on it, then like I'm going to be on it. And it could go to the whole, someone from a conventional gym can pull 220 deadlift, and that could be one of the biggest deadlifts in the gym. Then they get opened up to this realm of powerlifting where like some like 77 kilo guy is pulling over 300, and they're like, well, he must be on it.
Yeah.
They don't realize though, how long has that person been training for? What kind of genetics and leverages that person has? There's always other
Well, the other thing is they also
as to
think they're
why.
training. A lot of the time, we say in that scenario, people think they're training properly when they're not.
And that too.
They're like,
So much more
yeah, like
knowledge
I lift
than
heavy
anyone
as fuck all the time. Why? Like I don't get
Yeah,
this
they
stuff.
obviously don't understand
Understand about periodization and everything.
programming side of things, and that's what the coaches do.
I've actually got a story. Sorry, I got a story for someone I used to work with. Now I'm going to be real up in the air about where and what I did for work at the time, and I was a WADA tester.
Let's settle in.
No. So it's not a big story,
Get the cookies.
but it's just about the whole drug thing. So this
Popcorn.
this person in another country was in the top, I think they were top 12 cyclists in that country, which is a pretty big deal. And they took heaps of drugs. They took a lot of testosterone, EPO, he was talking about. He took all these drugs. Before he took the drugs, he was top 25 to 30. And he goes, that was the biggest divider there. Between the top 10 and then the top 20, 30 were the drugs, how much you do, and everything like that. Because at that level, they're all pretty even, say, on the genetic side. They're all pretty high level. They all train similar. The drugs are a deciding factor. And some of them just didn't know or, weren't willing to do it.
Yeah.
And the other ones were. So he jumped, 15 spots after he got on the drugs. And he said, I was like, oh, man, and this is when I was 18, 19, talking to him about it. So I wasn't involved in powerlifting at all. And he was like, I was like, oh, would you do it again? He's like, yeah, man, I felt great. He was like, yeah, I was strong. He's like, I was like a bull. I could go forever. I could cycle forever. He goes, I just didn't get tired because EPO and everything.
Interesting accent there.
What accent was that?
A little bit came out there. I was like, who's this?
I wonder.
1 sec, someone's at the door.
Yeah, someone's at the door. I haven't competed yet.
Someone's at the door just counting the trophies.
Do we know who this is? Or?
Yeah, it's one of our neighbours.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah, sorry about that.
What a legend.
He's like, did Anthony win?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, cool. Anyway.
Yeah, so it was a good story, but yeah, just people will do crazy things. Sorry for that sidetrack there. I'm gonna go just start a fight.
Let's go kick the fuck out of him.
All right. Next big one. Now this is a big one. This is where we're gonna go big. What anabolic PEDs are common with WADA athletes, specifically strength athletes? So most likely to be PEDs, performance-enhancing drugs with short test times. And please explain the physical benefits of these drugs.
Man, no stress at all. So again, I couldn't find the WADA testing list. I found the ASADA one.
It's pretty similar.
Yeah, just to be clear, just so that we know, I found
it would be exactly the same, wouldn't it?
Well, I found the banned list. So I went through the banned list and what everyone was banned for.
Oh, you're not banned substances, in banned people.
I found the actual people that were banned, so it's public knowledge, and then what they found positive. So I just narrowed it down to weightlifting, powerlifting, and bodybuilding, just because I thought that was probably the most applicable in terms of what they had. Honestly, the few big ones that came out were clenbuterol. So clenbuterol is actually, it's interesting because it's used as a cutter for most people. Most bodybuilders will use it as a cutter. It increases your blood pressure, your body temperature, increases your heart rate.
Oh, I'm going to cut.
Well, yeah, so it increases
everything. Clen, right?
Clen. So
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, that was a very, very quick Clen. Hey. No, so it's it was actually originally used as therapeutic use for asthma. So
I have asthma.
Well, so it's to relax smooth muscle in the airways. So people that suffer from quite bad asthma, they used to give it to them. And
I keep my Clen in here.
So yeah, I mean, people are like, oh, is Clen anabolic? It's it is, but it's not. It's a tricky one. It's just easy to say that it's not. Kind of is. But
so that goes into the next point.
In terms of biologically?
No. So yeah, anyway, keep going with PEDs, anabolic ones.
So there was just, like I said, just going through the list. Clenbuterol, there was furosemide. It's just a diuretic. There was quite a few diuretics on there. Most people, I imagine, wouldn't have been taking them for the diuretic aspect. Don't know if you remember good old Shane Warne, diuretic, when he got busted and done.
Okay.
I don't remember. It's a masking agent. So you can take a diuretic and take some other things that it may not come up as.
Very suspicious.
Yeah, so it's sort of okay, you're going to take this and then I'm going to take a diuretic and mask it. And they're like, problem is they didn't realize that diuretic was banned. So they sort of stuffed up on that front.
Okay.
Because if it's not a sport where they're trying to cut weight for, say, a meat, then it's very, very suspicious.
Yeah, exactly right.
Well, I mean, they're banned in drug tested powerlifting.
Yeah.
Well, this is a SADA ban, so I think all diuretics, if not, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you got a question.
Any diuretics at work.
Shane Warne's taking it. You know he doesn't have to cut weight.
Yeah,
play cricket. So that's
very
suspicious.
You're a cricketer. You don't need to cut weight.
You're masking something.
Yeah, that was one where he said. I think he said his mum gave it to him. That was way back when.
The classic. Just take it like a man.
So then I found there's quite a bit of DMMA. It's got a massive ass name. I'm not going to
DMAA.
DMMA. It's just a neural stimulant.
So like DMT?
Cognitive enhancement.
Okay.
I think it was quite popular way back in the day with like tennis players and stuff like that.
That's the stuff they put in pre-workouts.
I was gonna say it's found commonly in pre-workout. Yeah. So
yeah, man, it used to be in like Jacked 3D.
The old Jacked,
and who remembers 1 rep max?
Yeah, I do.
Oh no,
man, that shit was crazy, bro.
I shit,
I was 17, couldn't get my dick up after it.
right.
Yeah,
Well,
so I didn't have that problem. But
yeah, no.
Yeah, you're like, no, never had that. No, like legit, because of the stuff they put in it. It was a big side effect. They called it stim dick. I know that's a lot of info. You just learned something about me. But like,
Things you didn't need to know.
17, man, and that stuff, because it is like a stimulant. And I think the reason it got banned, people were using it as a party drug in America, in New Zealand, right? And it'd give you the same side effects as those kind of drugs.
Because it's simply based on ephedrine.
Yeah. So then, like, it'd like lead to for like 8 hours, 10 hours would lead to like erectile dysfunction and stuff. But you'd be like, dude, I got sick fucking pumps.
You're doing push-ups in the backyard of someone's party.
I got really bad shakes from it.
Yeah.
Like severely bad shakes.
Was it from that though, or beta-alanine that might have been in the pre-workout?
I'm sure whatever it was.
Probably
in
the combination.
A combination of it. Yeah, but I remember like getting shaken to the point where I got weaker.
Yep.
Like especially while I was peaking on it.
And
I was like, I don't like this.
The stuff was crazy, man.
That's why now it's illegal.
Peaking, yeah. No, that was just the pingers, man.
And the other biggest one I found was just turinabol, which we spoke about earlier.
Did we speak about it earlier on here?
Yeah, T-bol.
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 Yeah, turinabol,
right.
T-bol. Yeah, T-bol.
Sorry.
So yeah, just the derivative of D-bol without the whole estrogen side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they're the biggest ones you found.
That were the most common on the ASADA list. There are other ones with other athletes, but I mean, good old Stephen Dank was on there. That was quite funny. So it's like he's banned. It's got everything because of.
I don't know who that is.
The guy with the Essendon saga.
Oh yeah.
So he's just banned, which
Yeah.
is quite funny. But yeah, I mean, they were the most common.
Do you actually know what they were accused, going to a side topic, but do you know what they were accused of taking?
Thymosin beta-4. It's a peptide. It's like, there's no positive tests. For me, it's like, if you're going to get busted, so these guys, all on this list, have been tested and busted.
Yeah.
Like, the Essendon players, I think they were tested from memory, but they weren't, there was nothing shown. So it's like,
But it was banned,
Look, I'm a passionate Essendon supporter. Don't get me started. We'd be on here for 3 hours.
I guess they got out in the public. They had to do something to make everyone happy.
Kinda, yeah, right.
Yeah, it's like a publicity thing.
Yeah, look, everyone's got their own opinion about it. I don't agree with how it went down, but I mean, that's just my thing for it. Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, just running
Well, that covers that. So then, so we're going to let you take the reins a little bit soon. So that covers, so we kind of had 2 points here. So this is a little bit more interviewee, but that's because we have some direct questions we wanted to ask.
Yeah, cool, man, please. By all means.
So then we asked what non-anabolic PEDs are on there. So like you said, Clan and everything. You just covered that. Do you have another list for that?
For the ones that are non-anabolic.
Yep. So non-anabolic banned PEDs.
That one I didn't come up with, but I mean, it's mostly just like.
Again, Clan and things like that.
Yeah, mostly like the diuretic stuff.
Yep.
And all that sort of stuff that's on there. So I mean, they're pretty self-explanatory.
I feel like there's only so many drugs people can do, right? Because like there's only so many drugs that'll work.
Yeah.
What's accessible.
Yeah.
Well, exactly right.
All right, so we covered that. Now, a big one is, and this is one that always surprises people. So, drug tested does not mean drug free all the time.
Yes.
Right? They are 2 very different things. This is something you said to me ages ago.
Drug regulated versus.
Now, and what that means is there is a ban list, and there are performance enhancing drugs not on the ban list. Now, they're not anabolic, and they're not performance enhancing in the way that you take them and then get stronger. It's not A plus B equals C. It's in a more roundabout way. Now the question to you is, what PEDs do you know of that aren't on the ASADA list? So they're like not non-anabolic or anything, and explain the benefits of these drugs.
So, I mean...
All you cheaters out there, listen up.
How'd you get jacked without getting jacked? No. I mean, there's a few things on there I found that were interesting that, it could be questioned, it could be iffy, but you'd get away with it, and I've seen people that have used it, and you can get like a medical exemption and all that sort of stuff for a lot of things, which is I always found that to be a kicker, which is quite funny because it's not hard to go to a doctor and basically fudge your own bloods to get something to benefit.
What can you get exemptions for?
like you can honestly, you go to the doctor, you get blood tests, and you get your blood glucose measured, for instance. And the range that me and one of my mates, Dalton, we were having this disagreement or argument. It was the normal range has been between 4 and 6
for blood glucose.
Yep, and like he'll say it's between 4 and 5.6. I'm like, just round up, don't be a flog. So 4 to 6. So you go to the doctors, you get your blood done, and it's 4.4. It's great, you're healthy. Go to the car, take some lollies, eat some lollies, go back, and get it done again. It's probably going to spike to over 6, right? Then they're like, hold on, you could be predisposed to diabetes. Let's give you some metformin. Now, I don't know. You guys know me quite well. I'm a huge advocate of metformin, not just from its benefits in performance, just from its total health benefits. To be honest, I love metformin.
Yeah,
but it's only for diabetics, and it shouldn't be. It should be released for everyone. But anyway.
So I was listening to, it was on the Joe Rogan podcast, they're talking about how it's one of the agents they use for helping with aging.
Yeah, so it's only really recent that it's been coming out for anti-aging and that sort of stuff. It's been out since the late 50s, early 60s from memory.
So what does metformin do?
Basically inhibits liver glucose. So what it does is it allows you to shuttle glucose out of the blood. So if you're normally diabetic, normally they have a bit more blood glucose going on, so helps take it out. Also increases insulin sensitivity, man, which is huge. Like, it's for performance output, being insulin sensitive is great because you could just eat more carbs, fuel your muscles a bit better, fuel your training sessions better, give yourself the best chance to recover. Hey, everything just works in a feedback loop.
Again, yeah, so it's not directly you don't take metformin and get stronger, but it allows better processes
it
for
gives
getting
you
stronger.
access to other things to then potentially get stronger.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
What's its negatives?
Honestly, it's like I haven't seen any real negative side effects as of yet. Reading the literature and stuff, there was one that came out. I think it was from Andy Galpin, who's like an absolute genius, and it sort of showed that in healthy people, it may not be beneficial, it may be detrimental, but then there's other things and other people at the moment that say, well, it's great for healthy people because you can never be too insulin sensitive. So it's like a double-edged sword. But I think with most sort of performance athletes, you can never be too insulin sensitive just purely because of your training and what you're eating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
Yep. So that's one. That's a big one. So you're saying, you might, if you're a WADA tested athlete, this won't run anything, like you can get tested and they won't care.
No.
And it just allows you to eat more carbs and utilize those better.
Basically, yeah. So what happens
in
is,
layman's terms.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to stop your body breaking down its own protein to become sugar and glucose. It's called gluconeogenesis, right? It's just a biochemical process that tends to happen when we're building muscle. If you're not feeding the muscle sufficiently protein, it'll start burning it. It'll start burning its own protein source, right? That's just how the body works. It's like when you go, when you see people out in the desert and they're starving and they're like stick thin, they've got no muscle. Well, yeah, because their body's eating their muscle for fuel.
Or like people with like eating disorders.
Yeah, and all that sort of stuff, right? So now you've got a supplement here, or you've got a tablet that you can take that stops you from muscle wastage, is making you more insulin sensitive, which is healthier, and then is allowing you to eat more carbohydrates to fuel your sessions, to recover better, and everything else that is associated with carbohydrates. So basically life. Yeah. Like, I don't know, for me that's fantastic. Like, but in terms of like being a banned substance, I mean, according to everything else on their list, it's sort of like, well, it should be in there.
Yep. Okay.
I mean, that's my thoughts on it anyway. So
you think it should be banned?
Well, if you're going to ban half the other crap that's in there, yeah. I mean, why wouldn't you? Like, you got diuretics that you're banning for, like, even just normal good old fashioned diuretics for people. You've got all this other crap that doesn't really do much over time. A lot of the peptides still haven't been shown to do anything. It's like you have to take peptides for so long, over such a long period of time. Like, whereas you take this is quite fast acting. It doesn't take long to kick in. But I mean, that's my own thought. I love metformin, so
I can tell.
I'm going to be the biggest advocate.
Is that what you were racking lines of before?
Pretty much. That's what.
Look, I'm so insulin sensitive.
And I have it in my Pez dispenser, so.
I've only heard good things about it as well. I mean, have you heard anything bad about it? yourself?
I don't really know much about metformin or drugs, so I'll leave that to you two.
Well, I mean, he was pretty quick on the clean call, so.
That's because I'm cutting it.
Yeah. I'm in a cut, I swear.
No, you hang around in conventional gyms and, with juicy powerlifters like I did in the UK. They were like, I don't know if you guys know, in England, steroid culture is really big, right? It's real easy to get.
Yep.
So a lot of people talk about it. So I was sorry when I was over there, I was in the gym. Now, I've never done a PED, right? But and I think a big reason for that is early on, I knew if I was ever going to do it, it would be a big deal. And the people I was around were so casual about it, it put me off. And like I'll tell you two stories. So one, these were very close. These are probably a week and a half apart. So one guy walked up to me, threw me a bottle, and went, "Hey, I don't like this. Do you want it?" And it was Anavar in England. And I was like,
No.
I was like, "No, I'm good, man." He's like, "You sure?" Like, I don't like it. And I'm like, "No, I'm all right." And he's like, "Oh, all right," and took it. That's how chill it was over there, though. And then it was funny, though, because there was a bunch of us IPF guys over there that all trained together. None of us would ever do drugs. And then everyone else was just like guys that would go to Ibiza like every couple of months. And they get on juice, get shredded, go on holiday. You wouldn't see them for another couple of months. Then they come back skinny. Then they blow up, go overseas on holiday.
Vicious cycle.
Yeah, it was just their routine.
So this dude comes and throws Anavar at me. and I'm like, oh shit, all right. Like that was a little bit surreal, especially someone that like in my head I knew doing these drugs, altering the chemicals in your body was a big deal, and these guys are so nonchalant about it.
Yep.
Like I've got so many drug stories from over there. But then we hadn't seen this other guy for months, like maybe 2 months. And a week later he comes back in the gym with a limp. And I'm like, where you been, man? And he's a big juicy guy. He's like, oh man, I almost died.
Righto.
I was in hospital. And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, look at this. He pulls down his pants. There's this big scar with part of his quad cut out.
Oh, did he have like a shit injection or something?
He reused the needle.
Ah, dickhead.
And I think it went necrotic or whatever. They had to cut a big part of his quad out. He almost died. And he's even coming. He's like, yeah, I learned that lesson. I'm back on the drugs though. I was like, man, you guys are nuts. Like,
It's a lifestyle, man.
yeah, but it was like that so much. Like, man, I used to
that too.
have guys come in that would be taxi drivers, and they come in like, hey man, do you mind if I just go inject in the bathrooms? Like, what the fuck? So kind of like that put me off drugs a lot. But you hear a lot about it because they're also open about it over that, and that's what I'm getting at. Is with these drugs, like we heard a lot and learnt a lot because nobody cared.
Yeah, right.
Everyone's just like, yeah, I'm running this, and this, and I'll probably add in this, and this, and I drank 20 beers last night. Like,
Well, yeah, you know what I'm like about it. It's like at the end of the day, people are gonna take it. I'd rather try and help educate people, and as my education gets better and better from the best of the best, I mean, I can sort of relay it and make it more applicable. I mean, at the end of the day, I'd rather someone be like, yeah, I know what I'm doing, or have half a clue, than be like, oh, I'm gonna go on Google and just check out fucking what cycle I'm going to use. It's like, mate.
Yeah, I'm going to use the...
I'm 65 kilos and I'm going to use the cycle the 120 kilo guy used. Like,
the big one is like, I'm going to use the Dallas McCarver cycle.
how did that work out?
Yeah. All right.
So you just spoke about the addictive side of it and like how people...
Yeah.
So
I think majority, okay, I think like we have an addictive nature about our personalities, right? Whatever our drug is, it doesn't necessarily need to be like PEDs. It could be anything. People like to play games for hours on end. People
gambling.
Yeah,
alcohol,
exactly right. And I think that's I think it's human nature.
Sex.
So, yeah,
it's
like like you get a euphoria from it. So it's like, well, why not? But at least if you're doing it in a healthy sense or the most healthy way possible, hopefully it's a benefit for you, not detriment.
Yeah, well, on that note of addiction is like, so my experience when I was especially younger is I had one of my mates was a professional sprinter, and a lot of the people he was around end up doing drugs and performance enhancing drugs, whatever they were, and then basically he watched them all fall apart and then like fall out of the sports because they got injured or they couldn't get off the drugs because the thing is, and what he told me was like, he's like, don't ever do it, because if you do, you will never be satisfied when you try to do it naturally again. And so he was just like, you can never get like to what you were at on drugs,
Yeah.
and so you constantly
Trying to compare yourself to what you were.
you compare yourself to
Yeah.
what you were on drugs, and so you're never satisfied with yourself, and so you see he's seen so many people fall into depression, and like fall out of like training and everything because it just fucks them mentally.
Yeah. I mean, it's not surprising, and it makes complete logical sense, right?
Yeah.
But
And you can see where it becomes addictive as well, because you then all of a sudden you need to stay on it in order to maintain, this strength and size or look that you get from it.
yeah, exactly right. So it's like, I mean, being aware. So as long as you understand what, why, where, how,
Yeah.
I mean, it's the best you can do, right? And that's what I try and help with.
And to Anthony's note about how, shalom it is in conventional gyms, it seriously is a problem. People just throw that shit around like it's just, don't even worry about the side effects long term or nothing. It's just like,
Yeah,
here it is, take it, you'll get bigger.
And it's like, this is what I take, so this is what you should take. And it's like, well, you weigh 140 kilos and I weigh 55.
Yeah.
Why would I take the same amount? So it's like, there is methodology of how, what, how much, when, and all that. Like, we won't get into that, but,
when we got into
like
that in the last podcast about getting blood tests and still remaining healthy as you possibly can be.
But I'm
if
talking
you're going
about
to do
even
that,
like terms of like dosaging per person. It should always be individualized to the person,
Of course.
So it's like, not one person's the same. But anyway, like I
So,
said, I'll rant. So
more of, I know you have more.
You're reading my notes, were you?
Yeah, of course, they're laid out in front of me. I'm interested. What's that? So, there's more drugs
Yeah, so
other than metformin. So we covered metformin, then we went on a bit of a tangent. That's
we
okay.
did.
That's
So-
okay. It's a safe space.
right.
But get back on track.
So basically, a thyroid hormone, so T4, T3.
is a PED that isn't on their SADA list.
Yeah, not that I could see. I mean, I was having a look again before, but I didn't see T3, T4 on there. So, man, your thyroid is what basically stimulates metabolism, right? And stimulate metabolism, it's what basically gets all your chemical processes happening in the body. So that's, again, I'm trying to be very basic. I'm not going to go into the complications of the biochemistry behind it. But, man, you have like your TRH, which is your thyroid releasing hormone, which then turns into basically your thyroid stimulating hormone, which is your TSH. So if you ever go get blood tests done, 9 times out of 10, they'll just test your TSH. Okay? What happens is TSH, T3, and T4 don't always work together. Not always. Sometimes they do, but not always. So most of the time when people have like thyroid issues, like the TSH might show that they're fine, but then you ask your doctor to get a T4 or T3 test, and you see that your T4 might be low, but your T3 is fine. It's just feedback loops and how things sort of work. But again, I won't get into it too much. So from your TSH, it goes through to your thyroid gland. So it starts in the hypothalamus, and then from there it breaks into T3, T4, which increases metabolism, increases your BMR, all that sort of stuff. So BMR being basal metabolic rate, amount of calories roughly, or the energy you burn doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You increase that, obviously, then it allows you to just eat more food and get fitter, get healthier, all that sort of stuff.
Get lean even.
And-
more.
Exactly right. Well,
And
it's
eat
just,
more.
you're increasing metabolism, right? So, basically with thyroid, it increases, everything. So it's like BMR increases your protein synthesis, your carb synthesis, your fat synthesis, all that sort of stuff. So it's like you're doing all this stuff, and it's like the most beneficial thing that you could probably take, because again, over time, it's like you increase everything, couple it with metformin to allow you to eat more carbs. It's like, oh shit. You give yourself the best chance of getting a lot stronger, a lot more efficient, a lot healthier, to be honest. Like that's for me, that's what I like about it. It makes you it can give you the opportunity to be a lot healthier.
Yeah, but there's definitely got to be side effects, right, when you're playing with hormones, like T3 is a hormone, T4 is a
Yeah,
hormone.
again, keeping, regulating it, making sure you're getting your bloods done and all that sort of stuff. But you'd have to go pretty crazy taking T4 or T3 to overdose or to get to a point where it's detrimental. So,
I guess that's the problem people do though.
yeah.
Well, it's the same thing.
I guess educating, it's like the point of no return. So it's like diminishing returns, man. Like there's no point in taking more than needs to be taken. Otherwise,
Yeah, but people don't care. It's like, all right, so it's like DNP, which is for cutting, right?
Yeah.
In itself, it isn't super dangerous. It's just super dangerous when you take too much.
Do you know what DNP is?
Yeah, it's a pesticide.
Yeah, so DNP was also the thing used in dynamite.
Yeah.
So it increases.
Right, but again, if you take the recommended dose, I'm not saying go do DNP, I never would.
Yeah.
But if you take the recommended dose, you're going to feel a bit like shit, but nothing bad's going to happen. But then you take too much and you're cooked.
Oh, yeah, you wouldn't.
But again, that's the thing. You tell, and it happens heaps again in the UK. They're pretty slack on these like kind of drugs and
just throwing
stuff.
the Poms under the bus, aren't we?
Hey man,
Jesus, man. So
you like that? They catch. Yeah. No, just because over there, like again, there's the laws are more lax on like PEDs and things like that,
Yeah,
like
for sure.
drugs and like when you talk about
Well,
steroids.
it's a lot more of an open forum over there. By the
Yeah,
sounds of it.
so it is. So DMP, but in the news, there's people dying from DMP, and it's just like, yeah, because it says don't take more than 2, and they're like, well, 2's working really well. I'm gonna take 4.
Yeah.
Oh shit, I'm dying. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
And when you overdose on DMP, you can't go back.
You're definitely
you're
not.
dead.
You're dead. Yeah, that's 100% true.
All right, so there's some drugs there. Are there any other?
Man, honestly, for me, I think they'd be the biggest ones that I'd be looking at for like tested athletes that if they want to have.
I mean, we're not condoning going and taking these.
No, and I'm definitely not condoning that either. To be honest, I feel like if you're going to take anything that's going to really enhance yourself, like just go to a fucking fed that you don't need to worry about anything. But anyway, it's just my opinion as well.
Well, that's how we say it's like a good thing, is how we have that in powerlifting. We
Yeah,
have federations
you
where
do.
you can do it naturally. You know for the most part it's going to be a level playing field in regards to performance enhancement.
Yeah.
As level as you're gonna get.
Yeah, levels you're going to get. Of course, there's going to be those pieces of shit that we talked about before. But it's levels you're going to get.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, do you think we're going to get to a point where it's not feasible for tested athletes to take drugs or use commonly taken ones? Or do you think the athletes and the people making the drugs are always going to try to be one step ahead?
Well, I feel like as long as one can't live without the other, so as long as one's around, the other one's going to be around, right? So it's sort of like that double-edged sword where if there's going to be a fed that wants to test, then there's going to be people in that fed that are going to take things to try and be the best in that particular fed, even though they shouldn't be. So that means they're going to take things that people are going to produce.
But I mean, like WADA and that as a whole, do you think it's going to get to a point where for any athlete, where they can go, no, this guy took this, even though they tried to they took it 2 years ago?
Okay, so in terms of that aspect, I mean, there is a study going down now in your favourite country, England.
I don't hate England. I lived there for 2 years.
So it's actually in relation to, I think, the John Jones stuff. They're talking about how long the effects of anabolics last over time. So it's like they've got, I think, 3 groups. They've got a natty group, a group currently taking, and a group that's taken in the last, I think took for 5 years or 3 years, but have been off for 2 years. And they're testing their muscles basically just to see what their fast twitch, slow twitch stuff's like, their strength and all that sort of stuff. And if they've had an impact from previous use. So it's like if that was to come out and come about, then I think the WADA protocols will change a lot for what they're testing and how they're testing.
Okay.
Again, it's dependent on how that study goes and studies that come after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great if that comes in, because we always talk about this, that people who do performance enhancing drugs in the past and then come into a sport that's tested and they're fine, and even though that people know that they were on drugs in the past, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think also I'm curious to know that
Makes
if it was...
me so mad.
Well, I'm really curious to know if that study
hate that.
and it takes a lot and a long time to obviously set up a study, research, get it all done. The coincidence of timing with him and the John Jones thing, like it was just like, hold on, because he's still being done for the metabolites. So
I just like how they're like, oh yeah, no, there's these micro metabolites that bounce around his body.
Yeah. So that's what they're effectively testing. But it's sort of like it was so coincidental how it happened. Like he's been done for metabolites, and then there's this study showing, hey, do metabolites actually have a benefit? So it's like, hey,
Okay,
the timing's going to be
So
interesting.
they're testing whether the metabolites have a benefit.
So the after effects, which is metabolites.
When the studies come out for it, so you're saying they're in
They're in the
of-
process. Yeah, they're recruiting now. They may have finished recruiting. I'm not sure.
Yep.
So it's still a couple of years. Probably.
You're moving to England, right?
Sorry.
I said you're moving to England.
Yeah, 100%. I put my hand right up. I'm like, I'm coming. Let's go.
We'll definitely do a podcast again when those studies
in
come out.
2 years' time.
Yeah.
Well, that's when our next one's going to be. We'll book it in.
Now, what's your take? Someone that is, I don't want to say pro-drug, but pro-drug. You're open about performance-enhancing drugs, and you just said before you aim to educate on it so people can make educated, informed decisions. Which has to be respected. Just like I'm open about having And some people don't believe it. I think it's becoming more now that people believe you can be strong without drugs. So like, people don't believe like, oh, I'm not on drugs. You go on Reddit and they go, no, you could never lift that 300 without drugs. And you're like, oh, you're an idiot. But again, I'm really anti people trying to cheat in tested sports, not just powerlifting. I'm not against drugs per se, just keep them in different feds. What's your opinion on tested powerlifters taking PEDs, performance testing drugs, when there's untested feds?
Well, I think we all share a similar opinion on this. It's like, well, you have the fed set up for you to compete in if you want to jump on gear. So jump in that fed. Like, there's no question about it.
You think it's a bad move? It's unfair.
Stupid. It's stupid to be taking something and then jumping in a fed where you're claiming that you're natural. And it's also stupid because you're going to get tested eventually.
It's just like, what's the end game?
It's literally a matter of time. Like, unless you're intending to really go in and make yourself look stupid, I mean, go for it. But
I think that's part of the problem, though, is that the consequence isn't really that bad because what happens? They get caught.
Yeah, they get banned and they just go to another fed.
They go to another fed. Everyone forgets about them.
100%, man. And the thing is, people forget.
Yeah.
Like,
it would be pretty cool to see if it was like, okay, you got busted, now you can't compete in any fed.
Yeah, like just for being dishonest.
That I wouldn't mind.
Because imagine if even federations that were tested but not tests went you cheated in that one.
Yeah,
what's going to stop them cheating in your fed when they come to your fed?
Yeah, exactly.
So there should be like it should all be connected.
Yeah,
and this will never happen. It's very hypothetical because they all hate each other, which is what we're trying to, I guess, get rid of. That
exactly
hatred.
right, man. At the end of the day, it's progression of the sport, whether it's tested or untested, but you can still have things that, go hand in hand with each other, and something like that, where a tested person an enhanced person gets tested in a tested fed and comes back as positive. Well, okay, you're banned from any fed for 2 years or whatever however long it is.
That's a realistic consequence because it's like, and it's true, like, why would the other fed want to take this person that they're willing to cheat, and maybe they're going to cheat another way with, where it's going to be like, where
of course,
it's the same kind of person that'll put tennis balls behind their knees when they wrap their knees.
Exactly. There's other ways to cheat.
Performance-enhanced
drugs isn't the only way to cheat.
Yeah.
And if they're a cheat, what's to stop them doing it?
Almost like wearing
once a cheat,
a
always
really
a cheat.
loose bench shirt under your animal shirt when you're in a raw comp.
It's just...
wonder who did that.
Anyway. It wasn't me, guys.
No, it wasn't Aaron. You'd have to be able to bench.
Yeah, I don't bench.
I was gonna say.
I can't bench anyway. It's all good.
Yeah, definitely. Like, just you have the luxury in this sport of having places you can compete on drugs. And it doesn't go saying you need to be open about your drug use. Just don't pretend you're something you're not. Yeah. It's like you get all these guys, the fake natties. Like, I don't actually have that. I have an issue with fake natties in the sense that it gives people an unrealistic expectation. But in the end, that bubble gets burst anyway. Yeah. My issue is more when people are in sports. Like, I fully understand why someone on drugs wouldn't want to advertise they're on drugs.
Well, that's the thing that I don't genuinely sort of agree with or like. It's just that it's demonized, and it's like, it's demonized because people that were in a tested fed got busted. That's why it's like effectively demonized.
Well, yeah, but sport, also let's say like bodybuilding and that the sponsors don't want you to be like, this protein is what's making me big and jacked.
That's money.
But it's not the 5 grams of testing.
Yeah, that's purely just for money. But it's like an example I'll give you in terms of like what we're talking about is like I look after the nutrition of my female athletes, and it's like, and even at work where I work, I would speak to people that are competing and stuff, and it's like, well, they got to talk about their periods.
Yeah.
Why can't
we talk about it here?
Why can't guys who actually might know something talk about that with females? Because like the old sort of connotation is like we did, like, not we being us, but like guys in general, like even sometimes females, like demonized it, and they're like, well, no, you can't talk about that. Like, you've had girls on the news and stuff. No, girls shouldn't talk about the period. And you're like, well, hold on, we're in a performance-based setting. Man, we need to look after your health. That's part of your health. Well,
a girl on their period will be weaker.
Yeah, but regardless of that, I'm just talking about in terms of
the
being
stigma.
able to speak about it, right? So it's like, well, why can't, especially in untested feds, talk about what they're on, what they're doing, how they're doing it? Because they may just come across that one person that just might know something more and be like, hey, well, why are you doing that? Like,
Yeah.
why? Give me the reason. Maybe you should do this. Maybe you should look at that. If you're feeling that way, maybe you shouldn't do this. Maybe you should go to the doctors because this could be happening. But you don't talk about it. You don't know. And the reason why it's not talked about is because, well, people are like, oh, you're on steroids. You're a cheater. Shut up.
Yeah. Like, dude, everyone
Like-
in the Fed's doing it. Like, it doesn't matter.
Go walk into the local gym and go look at the biggest guys. I'm telling you, they're on steroids, bro.
Look at the some like, dude, you'd be surprised. Some people look like shit. On the
Oh,
screen.
dude, there's that many people that are on gear that look like crap, and you're like, well,
But that's why people again can't believe that Tyler, can have a good physique drug free. Can't believe that, someone even my level who's fucking chubby could be that strong because you're like, oh no, and you just don't know what you're doing. You jumped on drugs first chance you got. Never learned how to train, how to eat, how to sleep.
You still got to train hard as fuck. Like,
and that's the thing, right? And that's
Anyway, you heard it here. All steroid users are cheaters.
But that's the fundamental thing of like testosterone. It's like it just allows you to train more.
Don't
Like,
give me that
fucking,
bullshit,
it just
man.
It lets you train
Don't-
more. You recover. It gives you the
You
the
grow
ability
muscle
to recover
faster.
faster, which is in turn build muscle. Don't
Yeah,
start-
no, but when you go, it just lets you train more, you're like, it just lets you train harder, and like
it's
that's
a byproduct
it. Like,
of recovering faster. Obviously.
That annoys me.
You should know that.
hang on, but isn't the muscle growth like?
How should I know
exponential?
that?
Because you're not dumb.
What's the
No, but I mean, people listening.
What's the percentage
should know that you're
increase
not
of
dumb.
muscle growth? Like, it's something I remember hearing it in the Arnold's documentary. But what is it? Do you know?
What was that?
The,
Sorry?
the increase of muscle that there's a growth rate. Do you know what it is?
It's-
But it's something crazy.
If
man.
it was in one of the Arnold documentaries, I'm 100% sure. It's
Basically,
pretty wrong.
labeling it like
because that's what done in the 70s. Like it's changed a lot.
yeah, well, that's true as well.
Rate of growth is always dependent on person and
it'd
everything
be
else,
very-
obviously,
But
all
again, you
external
do grow a
factors.
lot faster. That's why
Yeah,
you do a
because- but
12-week
why-
cycle and you'll put on the same size you did in the first 3 years
you
of
grow
training.
faster because you can eat more effectively because everything else is stimulated because then you get to recover faster because you get to train harder and you get to train more. That's the very basics of anabolics.
Increase your protein synthesis.
All that fun stuff, all the chemical
Store
processes
more
behind
muscle
it,
glycogen.
all that.
You
And then when you add it all up,
you actually grow more muscle fibers though, which natties don't do.
It was quite funny. There was a study where they gave two groups. One was sat there and just took steroids, and one just trained. It was natty. The guys that took steroids got bigger without doing anything.
So don't you sit there and tell me that it just lets you train harder.
yeah.
It does for performance-based sports. Is what I'm talking
It
about.
does, but there's also a level of muscle growth that's significant.
Oh, 100%.
That- and
Yeah,
that's-
you just want to take advantage of it by training.
So we're like, let's not label it like it's just better recovery. That's the
no,
I
it's
guess
just
the point,
it's
yeah.
the very basic fundamental of it. When it comes to performance, is what I'm talking about. When it comes to performance-based sports.
Yeah, you can. It's part of the reason. Like, I can do more volume, and we talked about this in the last one. I can do more volume than most. I can do more volume than a lot of people we know on drugs.
Yeah, 100%.
And recover from it.
Yeah, and that's when we start talking about genetics, and that's another conversation, right? But yeah, that's effectively.
But again,
what
if
it
you
is
can
you're
train
doing.
harder, you'll get more results
100%.
and recover from it.
Exactly right, and that's all. Well, not all you're doing, but that's one of the big factors of why people get on anabolics. That, and they know that obviously the side effects are going to be stronger. You're just going to get stronger over time.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, I just had one question for you.
Shoot.
Do you have any females on drugs that you write drug protocols for?
Yes.
Several?
A couple. I can't
Okay.
really go into too much.
Yeah,
detail, but
I don't want too much detail. What are the names?
It's like they're actually on this number.
What are the biggest differences
Just what
And-
they can and can't take.
and allowances you have to
Yeah,
make?
so when it comes to anabolics, you're looking at anabolic versus androgenic ratios. So anabolic being the muscle building sides, androgenic being the male characteristics. Yeah,
Like
so
bigger jaw.
yeah, all that sort of stuff and like hair
voice,
and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, So what we're looking at with supplements or compounds, what we're talking about is the actual ratios. So there's some very generic ratios like testosterone being like 1 versus 1. So it's, one anabolic, one androgenic. And then you've got other ones that are quite varied. You've got like Anavar is the biggest one for most females. It's quite anabolic without its real high androgenic effect. So most girls will take the oral. Girls don't want to look like guys. So that's sort of what we're looking for. Yeah. I mean,
That's
you do always...
That's a whole other topic.
Yeah. I mean, you always do have you always do have those athletes, both male and female, that will just do anything to get to be the
And
best.
that's like people who want to cheat.
Do you know of any women that are taking straight testosterone,
Yeah.
like for sports?
Yes.
And is the performance benefit that much bigger than
Yes.
saying if they took
100%.
the
Yep.
milder compound?
Yep. Definitely.
Yep.
Most
And it's
definitely.
just
There's no
like, you're like,
question.
hey, this is a sacrifice you're going to have to make. You're going to have
and
to
that's-
look like a dude.
And that's exactly it.
Can you actually go into the side effects of female taking Testosterone.
Oh, they're just easiest way to think about all the stuff guys have, like we're quite privy to, like hair,
Yep.
deeper voice, all that sort of
Bigger
stuff.
jaw,
Yeah, the biggest one being like private parts, obviously.
their clitoris grows.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to get too technical. But
Doesn't
yeah.
matter.
Oh
man.
yeah, yeah, we'll get into it.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So like that sort of stuff. So it's like we're trying to mitigate that for most females. Again, you do have athletes that are just like, nah, I don't care. I just want to be the best. All right.
Yeah, and then maybe they'll care in the future. Well, that you don't know.
Yeah,
Until
you can't.
until you experience
Well, that's
it,
exactly right.
But that's just the reality.
Yeah,
That's a
and
consequence
it's,
of
and
it.
it's sort of part of the process I have with female athletes. I'll ask them like, what is it? Like, what is it you're wanting? Like, what's the goal? What are you competing in, or whatever it is?
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, how far are you wanting to go? Like in terms of like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Trying to get
do you
that
think it's
gauge.
easier to say yes though and then not do it? So again, like I think Ariel Palumbo, Boston Lloyd's partner.
Yeah.
Like I think she's made videos about regretting a lot of the stuff she did because
Yeah.
she had a lot of those masculine traits start coming on and then she stopped.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to be like, yeah, no, and then when you're like, yeah, my name's
Yeah, exactly.
My
right.
name's
Yeah.
It's, I think, a good idea for females who are thinking about taking that step to kind of look into it very intensely
Yeah.
and
It's-
find like these examples of people who.
It's a very,
Can tell you
very
why.
and dudes as well because
Yeah,
you
for
have
sure.
side effects
With-
there. You
yeah.
can't just say women. I just think the side effects for women are a lot more noticeable, right?
Yeah,
They're a
with-
lot
and
more
with-
superficial.
Yeah, with the girls, it's also, it's like if I'm taking on a client like that, it's like it's a very, very personal conversation that needs to be had, just because of the potential side effects depending on what it is. So it's sort of like, this is the potentials that could happen. Are you sure that you want to go through with this? And then it's like, yes, okay, well, let's go get everything checked and all that sort of stuff, and let's establish your baseline and go from there.
What do their
But-
doctors say?
But yeah, I could imagine. But the only thing is with the girls, if they're only taking orals, being sort of like Anavar or even T-Bol, they don't need to be on it for overly long. It's a very short cycle. Whereas like guys, you've probably heard of blasting and cruising and all that sort of stuff with guys. Like you can get away with that. Girls that like to inject, they can do that too. But I mean, most girls will just take an oral for an 8 to 12 week period. Some will take maybe.
Is there a reason is it because there's less injectable drugs that agree with them and have the
It's
more
just
side
because of
effects?
that androgenic anabolic effect.
Yep.
It's
So
just
more
easier.
drugs, androgenic that are injectable.
They tend to have a more androgenic
Profile?
effect with females. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just to
'Cause
summarize,
that's-
like women can mitigate the effects of testosterone
Consider-
by
yeah, well-
taking mild.
Well, I mean, I guess the easiest way to look at it. Look at what the hormone females produce is estrogen, right? So it's like, what's the anabolic effects, or the aromatization effects of testosterone? Estrogen. So it's like they've already got that, so they don't necessarily need that. So we're looking at things that aren't overly aromatizing, and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
So there's a lot that goes into it, but
yeah,
again, it's really dependent on goal and what it is they're willing to do or how far they're willing to go.
yeah. No, well, I mean, we've spoke about women, but like men, obviously, like in our opinion, isn't as bad side effects, but in layman terms, long-term use can lead to not being able to have children, right?
Yeah, I think it's, again, this is a more anecdotal, so this is more from sort of speaking to people versus anything else. Guys are a lot more accepting of the side effects, it would appear. Like it's a touchy subject, but it's more, it would appear guys are more comfortable knowing, having the conversation,
But let's
and understanding
look at the
effects.
side effects. Guys, most of them are very reversible. So if you look at like acne, you look at breast tissue growth, you look at things like that, your ball shrinking.
Hair loss? Is that right?
Hair loss, yeah.
reversible
They're more reversible, not as if you look at females,
unless it's genetic.
again,
it's not reversible.
you look at like,
It's reversible, sorry.
you look at like females though, jaw growing, clitoris growing, voice going deeper, developing body hair.
Yeah.
Like
All the
you
things
tell
that most
me,
women don't
like
want.
it'd be like if you told a dude, I'm sure they'd have to put a lot more thought. If you were like, all right, your dick's gonna shrink, your jaw's gonna get smaller. Like again,
the thing with guys is fertility.
Yeah.
So it's like that's the biggest thing. It's sort of like, well, yeah, this is what's all going to happen, and like you will be infertile for a period of time. Now, will you be able to bring it back? Yeah, hopefully everything's done right and you're healthy and all that sort of stuff, and we can use something to bring it back. Sure, but you do run the risk of being infertile. Like that's just how it is.
Freeze your sperm.
Yeah, exactly. There's other things. Yeah, exactly right. So it's like
again, so I think the repercussions, like, of course, you'd have to think about it more because
100%.
for the females, it's a lot
I'm not
bigger.
disagreeing with that. It's just
I'm
and
saying,
and that's
like,
what it is. It's more.
They're not reversible. Like
Yeah, I
none
think-
of that's reversible.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I think it is. Where more it just appears that more guys are a lot more accepting of the potential side effects. Maybe not understanding it to a deeper.
And that definitely is
and
something because you can't see it.
Yeah, and that could be a thing. But this is again just anecdotal.
Yeah.
That
like, hey, dude, you might have a heart attack. You're 50. Oh, dude, that's 30 years away. It's fine.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
exactly right.
It's a lot easier to just discredit something or like brush it off when it doesn't look that bad.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it is. So that's why it's like making sure you have the conversation, making sure they understand the full spectrum of things that can happen, might happen, and how we can potentially mitigate them.
Sweet.
I think we skipped over like the most crucial or like the biggest side effect.
What's your dose, bro?
Long-term use, death.
Yeah, well, I mean, like we were saying, was off the podcast, like your body's got one of two things, depending on if you're male or female. It's like, it's one, it doesn't want to die, and two, like females want to reproduce.
Yeah.
So it'll put things in place all the way through to make sure that you don't die. So, yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah, well, I mean,
outside of being swole.
Yeah.
Swole is a goal. Sweet. Well, Aaron, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah,
we hope
good again.
Yeah. We hope you guys have enjoyed this.
Again, I try to keep it as basic as possible. I didn't want to get into too much like biochem, biology, physiology, just because there is obviously a lot more that goes into these things. So I'm hoping it's not too complex, hopefully.
Well, it's like me and Aaron were talking about earlier, is that...
you and Aaron?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, before you go.
You pointed at me. I'm like, did you mean me?
No.
Because you were late.
As in, yeah.
All right, man. At least I'm not a filthy drug user.
Apparently you are in England. No.
I said the exact opposite, motherfucker.
Oh, this is some good jabs.
Oh, that is a good jab.
I just want to point out you've been late more than me.
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
I'm never late.
It was traffic.
You're always late.
Hang on, wait.
Anyway.
We had this conversation last 3 Wednesdays.
Yeah, brush off.
Last 3 Wednesdays?
What, you haven't been here?
No, but you said to me, you told me.
I was 10 minutes late the last 3 Wednesdays.
I think we've opened
Right.
camera when here,
Do
guys.
you know how late I've been the last 3 Wednesdays?
You don't...
Not at all.
Because you don't have a time you have to show up for on Wednesdays.
No, I do. Every second Wednesday. Anyway. You
Every
guys don't
second
need to-
Wednesday? No, you
guys
don't.
need to know this.
Every Friday, second Friday.
Anyway, moving on.
No.
You guys in line now.
Right.
Nipping
my
this in the
mistake.
bud.
I had to come in early for a particular Wednesday. That's why. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. So if you take out the Wednesdays, Tyler is late all the time. Someone message him, just like, hey, man, can you meet me here at 12? He'll show up by like 12:30, but like, I said 12-ish.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what were you and Aaron talking about?
We're talking about how with this podcast we wanted to be more like layman terms, so like the listeners who also, if you don't have like a deep understanding of like all these concepts and like the science behind performance enhancing drugs, you're not going to understand a lot of these big words or I guess complex issues and complex like effects that these drugs have on the body. So it's like trying to be as layman terms as possible, hence why we didn't go too deep, and it would be like a 3-hour podcast.
Yeah, we'd be here for a while.
Yeah.
Sweet.
But
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you to Aaron.
Thank you guys,
You
all
can
the
follow
boys.
him at Elite Strength Coach
Appreciate it.
on Instagram.
Yeah, man.
Are you doing anything else on social media?
No, man, I'm just taking on a lot of nutrition and powerlifting clients and looking after their health and
Yep.
whatnot.
And as he puts it, supplement clients.
Yeah, compounds, enhanced, unenhanced.
Yep.
There's supplements that you can use. You don't have to be enhanced lifter.
Which we learned about today. T3,
Yes,
T4.
Yeah,
Me-
I forgot to mention
metformin.
creatine.
Metastaformins.
Creatine's another one, but I mean,
It's a pretty well-known one.
yeah, I didn't think that's the most studied
Supplement ever.
on the planet.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah.
If you're not taking creatine and you're not coming overweight for a comp, take creatine.
You're not swole.
Yeah, just take creatine
Yeah,
every day. It's great.
it works and it's so cheap.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I don't
Just
take it
make
actually.
sure you-
Now that I'm starting to cut, I'm going to take it.
Yeah, make sure if you do take it, you just get monohydrate.
Yeah, because it's like
be
you
sure.
get all these other ones, etherlester,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
none
you
of
don't
it
want any of that crap. Just-
pre-alkaline.
Yeah, just creatine monohydrate, 5 milligram a day.
Yep. People go, I'm going to
Not
get
5
bloated.
milligram,
That
5
doesn't
gram,
work
5 gram
like
a day,
that.
not 5
Like,
milligram. I'm tired.
people think think they're going to
5
like
gram a day.
people think they're going to take creatine and they're going to look fat, and that's not how it works at all.
They look massive for like 3 weeks, and then their water flushes, and you're like,
I was
hey,
gonna
I'm
say,
normal
like,
now.
They look more full, right? So you
Yeah.
still look jacked. Your
Yeah,
muscles
you're just
are full.
flooding muscles with water.
Yeah.
But that's good because
And that's
muscles
healthy.
are how many percent
That's-
water?
You want water
Right.
in your muscles.
Thanks for
Yeah.
listening, guys.
It's been good.
Yeah,
Aaron, did I still need to jab you after this? or-
yeah, bro.
Yeah. Like, bend over, big boy.
I thought it was your turn.
There's blood.